The lights flickered again in the communications center. Yuna gripped the edge of her console as another explosion shook the station. Through the viewport, she could see the three massive Krath warships hanging in orbit like metal vultures, waiting to feast on her world below. "How long until the bombardment begins?" asked Doyen, the senior technician. His voice trembled despite his efforts to sound calm. Yuna checked her readings. 48 hours, maybe less. She felt her chest tighten. 48 hours until every city, every farm, every school on Velrus Prime would burn. Her people had no weapons, no shields, no way to fight back. They were scholars and farmers, artists and teachers. War was something they had only read about in the old galactic histories. The Krath had given them an ultimatum 3 days ago. Surrender and become slaves, or die. The Velrun had sent urgent messages to the Galactic Council, begging for protection. They had treaties, agreements, promises of mutual defense. Surely the Council would send help. But no help came. Yuna pulled up the latest response from the Council headquarters. The message was cold and bureaucratic. "The Galactic Council acknowledges your situation. After careful deliberation, we have determined that military intervention would destabilize the region and potentially trigger a wider conflict. We offer sanctuary to any refugees who can reach Council space. May peace find you." "They abandoned us," Doyen said quietly, reading over her shoulder. "They're just going to let it happen." Yuna felt rage burn through her fear. The Council had dozens of species, hundreds of worlds, and massive fleets. But they voted to do nothing because saving the Velrun was inconvenient, because standing up to the Krath Empire might be difficult. She looked at the communications array in front of her. It was designed to send messages across known Council space, reaching thousands of worlds. But there were other options, experimental protocols they had never used. She could boost the signal, send it further, scatter it in directions the Council charts listed as empty or forbidden. "What are you doing?" Doyen asked as her fingers flew across the controls. "Changing the distress beacon," Yuna replied. "I'm sending it everywhere, to every corner of space. Maybe someone out there will care enough to help." The Council said, "I don't care what the Council said," Yuna's voice cracked. "My sister has 2 children. They're 5 and 7 years old. In 2 days, they're going to die because the Council decided it wasn't worth the trouble to save them. So I'm going to try everything, even if it's hopeless." She modified the beacon to broadcast on all frequencies, in all known languages, with universal distress patterns that any species should recognize. Then she pushed the signal strength to maximum and aimed it at random vectors across the galaxy. Most would hit nothing but empty space. But maybe, just maybe, someone would hear. One signal beam shot toward the Outer Rim territories, another toward the dense star clusters in the galactic north, and one, almost by accident, pierced into a region marked on all galactic charts with warning symbols: the quarantine zone, the space where humanity lived in isolation after the violent first contact incidents decades ago. The signal scattered into the darkness, and Yuna slumped in her chair. She had done everything she could. Now all she could do was wait and watch her world die. Far across the galaxy, on the edge of human space, the patrol vessel, Indomitable, drifted through the silence. Captain Jinwoo sat in his command chair, reviewing the monthly reports. It was boring work, but necessary. Humanity had agreed to stay within their borders, and that meant constant patrols to make sure no one accidentally crossed the line. "Contact," Minho's voice cut through the quiet bridge. The young communications officer looked confused, staring at his screens. "Sir, I'm picking up something strange. It's not a human signal." Jinwoo stood and moved to Minho's station. "From where?" "Beyond our border, deep in Council space." Minho tapped his controls, and the signal played through the speakers. It was garbled and broken, but the pattern was clear. A distress call. "Can you translate it?" Jinwoo asked. "The computer is working on it. The language is Velrun, one of the smaller Council species." Minho's screen filled with text as the translation software decoded the message. His face went pale. "Sir, you need to read this." Jinwoo leaned over and scanned the translated distress call. Words jumped out at him. genocide, defenseless civilian population, children, the Krath Empire preparing orbital bombardment, the Galactic Council refusing to help, a desperate plea for anyone, anywhere, to respond. How old is this signal? Jinwoo demanded. It just arrived, sir. Based on the propagation delay, it was sent about 6 hours ago from the Velris system. Jinwoo felt his jaw clench. The Velris system was in Council space, and humanity was forbidden from entering Council space. They had signed treaties after the disasters of First Contact. Humanity had been too aggressive, too quick to fight, had caused deaths through misunderstandings and cultural conflicts. So they agreed to isolation to prevent more bloodshed. But this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was mass murder about to happen, and the victims were begging for help that their own government refused to provide. Sir, what do? Minho asked. We can't just ignore this. Jinwoo knew the rules. He should report this to Earth Command and wait for orders. That would take weeks. The transmission lag alone was 10 days each way. By the time anyone on Earth even heard about this, the Velrin would all be dead. He thought about his own family back on Earth. His niece was 7 years old, the same age as one of the Velrin children mentioned in the distress call. What would he want someone to do if she was in danger and her government abandoned her? Minho, activate the emergency fleet protocol, Jinwoo said quietly. Send the distress call to every human vessel within jump range. Include my command authorization. Sir, that's a direct violation of… I know what it is, Jinwoo interrupted. Do it anyway. Minho hesitated only a moment before his training took over. His fingers danced across the console, and the signal went out. Within minutes, responses started coming back. Ships from patrol groups, merchant convoys, even private vessels were changing course, converging on Indomitable's position. Within 2 hours, 37 human ships hung in space together. Cruisers, carriers, destroyers, support vessels. Not a formal battle fleet, but enough firepower to level a small moon. The quantum communication system chimed. Fleet Admiral Soman's face appeared on the main screen, transmitting from Mars Command despite the impossible distance. Her expression was hard to read. Captain Jinwoo, she said slowly, you just activated a protocol reserved for threats to human survival. I assume you have a good reason for gathering a fleet and preparing to violate our most important treaty. Jinwoo straightened. Yes, ma'am. I received a distress call from a species facing genocide. The Galactic Council voted to let it happen. I'm not going to. Soman studied him for a long moment. You understand this could start a war, the very war we've spent decades avoiding. I understand, Admiral, but if we turn away from this, what are we? We isolated ourselves to prevent harm, not to ignore it when we have the power to stop it. The silence stretched. Jinwoo could almost hear Soman calculating, weighing humanity's safety against the lives of strangers billions of miles away. Finally, she nodded. You're right. Transmit the coordinates. I'm authorizing the deployment. And Jinwoo? Don't you dare lose. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, racing toward a world they had never seen, to save people who didn't even know humans existed. The hyperspace tunnel collapsed behind them as 37 human ships emerged at the edge of the Velris system. Captain Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the tactical display light up with new contacts. 3 Krath battle cruisers in high orbit over the planet, reported Hyun from the weapons station. They're massive, sir. Each one is twice our size. What about the planet? Jinwoo asked. Minho brought up the sensor data. Population centers are intact, but showing signs of panic. No defensive satellites, no orbital platforms, nothing. The Velrin really have no military at all. Jinwoo studied the Krath ships. They were positioned perfectly for orbital bombardment, their weapon arrays already charging. According to the countdown on his screen, the attack would begin in less than 30 hours. Open a channel to the fleet, he ordered. All ships, Battle Formation Delta. Carriers, Soul Star, and Busan's Defiance. Launch your fighter wings. I want full defensive screens up. We're going to give them one chance to leave peacefully. The human fleet moved with practiced precision. The larger cruisers formed a protective wall while the carriers fell back, releasing hundreds of small fighters that swarmed into defensive patterns. It was a formation designed for one purpose, to absorb an attack and hit back twice as hard. "Sir, the Krath are hailing us," Minho said, surprise in his voice. "Put them through." The view screen flickered, and a Krath warlord appeared. He was tall and armored, with facial ridges that marked him as high-ranking. His expression was a mixture of confusion and contempt. "Unknown vessels, you are interfering in Krath Imperial business. Identify yourselves and withdraw immediately." Jinwoo stepped forward. "I am Captain Jinwoo of the Earth Defense Force. You are currently preparing to commit genocide against a defenseless civilian population. Power down your weapons and leave this system. This is your only warning." The Krath warlord stared at him for a moment, then laughed. It was a harsh, grating sound. "Earth? The barbarians from the quarantine zone? You have no authority here, human. The Galactic Council itself voted not to intervene in this matter. You are violating multiple treaties just by being here. Leave now, or I will destroy you along with the Velrin." Jinwoo kept his voice level and calm. "We didn't ask the Council for permission. You have 60 seconds to begin your withdrawal." The Krath warlord's face darkened. "You dare threaten the Krath Empire with your pathetic fleet? We have crushed civilizations 1,000 times stronger than yours. I am Warlord Cressix, commander of the Crimson Fang Battle Group, and you are nothing but insects about to be—" "50 seconds, Jinwoo interrupted. Cressix's hand moved to something off-screen. "You've made your choice, human. Your deaths will serve as a lesson to others who dare challenge Krath supremacy." The transmission cut off. Jinwoo turned to his crew. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. Prepare for hostile action." Alarms blared across the bridge as the crew moved with quick efficiency. On the tactical display, the 3 Krath battlecruisers were turning to face the human fleet. Their weapon arrays glowed with building energy. "Sir, they're targeting us," Hyun announced. "Multiple plasma torpedo locks. They're firing." Brilliant blue spheres of superheated plasma erupted from the Krath ships, streaking across space toward the human fleet. Jinwoo watched them come. These were the same weapons that had shattered Galactic Council dreadnoughts in previous battles. The same weapons that made the Krath Empire feared across dozens of star systems. "Brace for impact," he ordered calmly. The plasma torpedoes slammed into the Indomitable's shields. The ship shuddered, and lights flickered, but the shields held. Around them, the rest of the fleet absorbed the barrage with minimal damage. "Shields at 87%, reported the engineering officer. "All systems nominal." Jinwoo allowed himself a small smile. "Return fire. All ships, weapons free. Target their weapon systems first. I want them disabled, not destroyed." The human response was immediate and devastating. Railguns mounted on every human ship opened fire simultaneously. Tungsten rods, accelerated to incredible speeds, crossed the distance to the Krath ships in seconds. Unlike energy weapons that could be deflected by shields, the solid projectiles simply punched through the Krath defenses like they didn't exist. The lead Krath battlecruiser shuddered as railgun rounds tore through its hull, ripping apart weapon batteries and sensor arrays. Secondary explosions rippled across its surface as ammunition stores detonated. "Direct hits on all 3 targets," Hyun reported. "The lead cruiser has lost main power. The other 2 are attempting evasive maneuvers." "Don't let them run," Jinwoo ordered. "Soulstar, deploy Assault Wing. Busan's Defiance moved to cut off their escape vector." The carrier Soulstar launched a fresh wave of fighters. These weren't piloted by humans, but controlled by advanced AI systems that could react faster than any living being. They moved in perfect coordination, weaving through space in patterns that would be impossible for biological pilots. The Krath tried to target the small fighters, but their point defense systems had been designed to stop missiles and torpedoes, not agile craft that moved like a school of fish. The fighters swarmed over the second Krath battlecruiser, their weapons precisely targeting critical systems. Within minutes, the ship was dead in space, powerless and drifting. Cressix's flagship was the only Krath vessel still combat-capable. He tried to make a run for the hyperspace jump point, but the Indomitable was already there, blocking his escape route. "All weapons, disable that ship," Jinwoo commanded. "I want Cressix alive to answer for what he tried to do here." The human fleet concentrated fire on the Krath flagship. Railgun rounds shredded its engine pods, stranding it in orbit. Laser point defense systems created an impenetrable web around it, destroying every missile and torpedo it launched. In less than 15 minutes, the flagship was reduced to a floating hulk, its weapons offline and life support barely functioning. The bridge of the Indomitable was silent, except for the steady beep of sensors. Jinwoo looked at the timer that had been counting down to the Velran genocide. It had stopped. The threat was over. "Casualties?" he asked. "None, sir," reported the medical officer. "Minor injuries from the initial impact, nothing serious. All ships reporting minimal damage." 17 minutes. War. That's how long it had taken to defeat 3 Krath battlecruisers that the Galactic Council considered too dangerous to challenge. Jinwoo felt no pride in the victory, only relief that they had arrived in time. "Minho, open a channel to the planet," he ordered. The communications officer worked his console. "Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on all Velran frequencies." Jinwoo took a breath. "People of Velris Prime, this is Captain Jinwoo of the Earth Defense Force. The Krath threat has been neutralized. You are safe. We received your distress call and we came as fast as we could. We're sorry we couldn't get here sooner." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then Minho's board lit up with incoming transmissions. Hundreds of them, thousands, all from the planet below. Voices crying, laughing, thanking the strangers who had saved them when their own government had abandoned them. One transmission came through clearer than the others. It was Yuna, the Velran who had sent the original distress call. Her voice shook with emotion. "You came. We didn't think anyone would come. Thank you. Thank you. How can we ever repay you?" Jinwoo smiled sadly. "You don't owe us anything. We did what anyone should do when someone asks for help. We just wish more people felt the same way." On the main view screen, he could see Velris Prime rotating peacefully below them. Cities that would have been ashes were still standing. Families that would have been torn apart were still together. And somewhere down there, Yuna's sister's children were safe. But Jinwoo knew this was just the beginning. They had violated the most sacred treaty humanity had signed. They had entered Council space with a military fleet and engaged in combat. News of this battle would spread across the galaxy within hours. "Sir, we're receiving a quantum transmission from Earth," Minho announced. "It's Fleet Admiral Soman. She wants to speak with you privately." Jinwoo nodded and moved to his ready room. When Soman's face appeared on the screen, he couldn't read her expression. "Captain," she said slowly, "you just changed everything. The Galactic Council is going to demand explanations. Half the galaxy is going to call us heroes, and the other half is going to call us warmongers. Are you ready for what comes next?" Jinwoo looked out the viewport at the planet they had saved. "I'm ready, Admiral. Whatever happens, we did the right thing." Soman's face softened slightly. "Yes, we did. Now we have to deal with the consequences." The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 200 species filled the massive amphitheater, all talking at once, their voices echoing off the crystal dome high above. Holoscreens displayed footage of the battle at Velris Prime on loop, showing human ships dismantling Krath battlecruisers with terrifying efficiency. High Arbiter. Thex stood at the central podium, his forearms raised for silence. He was a Vaxian, a species known for their diplomatic skills and ancient traditions. His silver robes marked him as the Council's highest authority, and his voice carried the weight of 1,000 years of galactic law. "Order," he commanded. "I will have order in this chamber." The noise gradually subsided. Thex's eyes swept across the assembly, and when he spoke again, his voice was cold with anger. 3 days ago, humanity violated the Treaty of Isolation. They entered Council space without authorization. They deployed a military fleet to a contested system. And they engaged in armed combat with a member species of this council. These are acts of war, and they demand immediate response. A Krath representative stood, his armor glinting under the chamber's lights. The humans destroyed 3 Imperial battlecruisers. They humiliated the Krath Empire in front of the entire galaxy. We demand they be expelled from their space and their military capability permanently destroyed. Shouts of agreement rose from several delegations, but others remained silent, their expressions troubled. Ambassador Quellis of the Praxi Collective spoke next. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and eyes that reflected intelligence and caution. While the human actions were certainly illegal, we must consider the context. The Velrin sent a distress call that we chose to ignore. The humans responded to what they perceived as genocide. Perception is irrelevant, Thex snapped. The Council voted on the Velrin situation. We determined that intervention was not in the galaxy's best interest. The humans had no right to overrule our decision. Perhaps that's exactly the problem. The voice came from the human delegation. Fleet Admiral Soman stood, flanked by Captain Jinwoo and a security detail. She wore her dress uniform, medals gleaming on her chest, and her expression was carved from stone. The chamber fell silent. This was the first time humans had stood in the council chamber since the Treaty of Isolation was signed 30 years ago. Thex glared at her. You were not given permission to speak, Admiral. I don't need your permission, someone replied calmly. I'm here to explain what happened and why. You can listen, or you can continue to pretend that you're the victims in this situation. Anger flashed across Thex's face, but he gestured for her to continue. Soman walked to the center of the chamber, and a holo display appeared above her, showing the Velrin distress call. This is what we received, she said. A desperate plea from a defenseless species facing extinction. They begged the Council for help. They had treaties, agreements, promises of protection. And you voted to do nothing. We voted for stability, Thex interrupted. Confronting the Krath would have destabilized the entire region. Soman's eyes locked onto his. You voted for convenience. You chose the easy path over the right path. And you expected everyone to accept that choice because you wrapped it in the language of diplomacy and political necessity. She gestured, and the holo display changed to show the battle footage. Human ships moved with deadly precision, neutralizing the Krath threat in minutes. We didn't ask for your permission because we knew you would say no. We didn't wait for authorization because children were about to die. We broke your treaty because saving innocent lives was more important than following rules made by people who abandoned those lives. You speak of morality, said a delegate from the Andorian Confederation, but your species has a history of violence. The first contact incidents resulted in thousands of deaths. You were quarantined because you were too dangerous to integrate into civilized society. Jinwoo stepped forward. Those incidents happened because we didn't understand each other. We reacted to perceived threats with force because that's what we knew, but we learned. We isolated ourselves not because you forced us, but because we agreed it was necessary to prevent more harm. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various delegates. But we never agreed to ignore suffering. We never promised to let innocents die just because it was politically inconvenient to save them. If that's what being part of your civilized society means, then maybe we don't want to be civilized. The chamber erupted again. Some delegates shouted their support, others their condemnation. Hana, a diplomat from the small Corvin collective, rose to speak. I think the humans have revealed something we all know but refuse to acknowledge, she said quietly. The chamber slowly quieted to hear her. This council has become more concerned with maintaining order than protecting life. We write laws and treaties to protect ourselves from difficult choices. We hide behind procedure when action is needed. The humans didn't break our laws because they're violent barbarians. They broke our laws because those laws have become tools of cowardice. Thex's face darkened. You suggest we abandon law and order? That we allow any species to use military force whenever they personally decide it's necessary? I suggest, Hana replied, that laws which prevent us from stopping genocide are not laws worth keeping. Soman activated another holo display. This one showed a data file marked with dozens of star systems. We've compiled evidence of 43 ongoing situations similar to Velris Prime. Genocides, mass enslavements, systematic extermination of entire species. All happening in council space. All ignored because intervention was deemed too costly or too complicated. She let that information sink in before continuing. You can condemn us for breaking your treaty. You can try to punish us for saving lives. But ask yourselves this. When the next distress call comes, when the next species faces extinction, are you going to vote to do nothing again? And if you do, what does that make you? The silence was heavy. Representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Even Thex seemed at a loss for words. Finally, Ambassador Quellis stood again. The humans have violated our most sacred laws, but they did so to uphold an even more sacred principle: the protection of innocent life. I propose we consider a middle path. Rather than punish the humans or reward them, we reform the council itself. Reform? Thex echoed. What do you mean? I mean we acknowledge that our current system failed the Velrin. We create new protocols for humanitarian intervention. We establish a legitimate defense force that can respond to situations like this quickly and without endless debate. And we invite humanity to join the Council as full members, bringing their military capability under Council oversight. The proposal sparked immediate debate. Some species supported it. Others called it surrender to human aggression. The Krath delegation walked out in protest. Soman raised her hand for attention. The Praxi ambassador's proposal is reasonable, but it comes with conditions. If we join this council, we do so as equals, not as junior members to be controlled. And the reforms she mentioned must be real, not cosmetic changes designed to maintain the status quo. You presume we want you as members, Thex said coldly. Then don't accept us, Soman replied. Brand us as enemies and try to force us back into isolation. But understand that we will continue to respond to distress calls. We will continue to protect species that you abandon. And every time we do, more people across the galaxy will ask themselves why they trust a council that votes to watch them die. Jinwu added quietly, You have a choice. Work with us to build something better, or fight us while we do it anyway. Either way, things are going to change. The vote that followed took 3 days. Representatives argued, negotiated, made deals and threats. In the end, the proposal passed by a narrow margin. Humanity would join the Galactic Council with full membership rights. In exchange, they would help create a reformed intervention force and accept council oversight for major military operations. It wasn't a perfect solution. Many species remained hostile to humanity. The Krath Empire swore revenge. But it was a beginning. After the vote, Yuna came to the human delegation. She had traveled all the way from Velris Prime to witness the proceedings. When she saw Jinwu, tears filled her eyes. Thank you, she said simply. Not just for saving us, but for fighting to make sure it doesn't happen to others. Jinwu smiled. How are your sister's children? Alive, because of you. She paused, then added, I've been training with your fleet. Admiral Soman offered me a position as a liaison officer. I want to help build this new defense force. I want to make sure no one else has to send a desperate distress call into the darkness, hoping someone will care enough to answer. We're glad to have you, Jinwu said. As they left the council chamber, Soman pulled Jinwu aside. You know this isn't over, right? We've made powerful enemies today. The Krath won't forget what happened, and there are species on the council who will work to undermine us at every turn. Jinwu nodded. I know, but we also made allies. And we proved something important. What's that? That doing the right thing is always worth the cost. 6 months had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. The reformed Joint Defense Initiative was officially operational, and its headquarters orbited the neutral moon of Sanctuary 7. The massive station was a blend of human and alien technology, a symbol of the new cooperation that many had thought impossible. Admiral Jinwu stood in the command center, watching dozens of ships conduct training exercises in the space around the station. Human vessels flew alongside Velrin medical ships, Corvin supply cruisers, and escorts from a dozen other species. It still felt strange to see so many different designs moving together as a unified fleet. Admiral, we have an incoming transmission, said Taeyang, the communications officer. He was young, barely 25, but he had proven himself capable during the integration process. It's marked urgent, priority 1. Jinwu moved to the main console. Put it through. The face that appeared on the screen was unfamiliar. a female alien with green-tinted skin and large dark eyes. Her species designation appeared below her image, Mirren, from the outer colonies. "This is Colony Administrator Rena of the Mirren settlement on Theta Kedros," she said, her voice shaking. "We are under attack by raiders. They have superior weapons and numbers. Our defense militia has been destroyed. We sent a request to the Council for help 3 days ago, but we were told that our colony is too remote for immediate response. They said a delegation would review our case in 2 weeks." Her image flickered as an explosion rocked her location. "We don't have 2 weeks. We have maybe 3 days before they breach our main habitat. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help now." The transmission ended. Jinwoo felt a familiar anger rise in his chest. The Reformed Council had created better procedures, but bureaucracy was still bureaucracy. A delegation in 2 weeks meant nothing to people dying today. "Taiyang, where is Theta Kedros?" Jinwoo asked. The young officer pulled up a star chart. "Outer Rim. About 4 days from here at maximum hyperspace speed. It's right on the edge of Council jurisdiction, technically in unclaimed space." "Which is why the Council is slow to respond," Jinwoo muttered. "Not valuable enough to rush for. Get me Admiral Soman on Quantum Comm." While they waited for the connection, Commander Yuna entered the command center. She had been working with the Velrin contingent, helping integrate their medical ships into the fleet. In 6 months, she had become one of Jinwoo's most trusted officers. "I heard the transmission," she said quietly. "The Mirren are peaceful miners. They have no military capability at all. If we don't help them, those raiders will either kill them or sell them into slavery." "I know," Jinwoo replied, "but we're supposed to coordinate with the Council now. We can't just rush off every time we hear a distress call, or we'll be back where we started." Someone's face appeared on the main screen, transmitting from Earth. "I heard the Mirren distress call. I assume you want to respond?" "Yes, ma'am, but I wanted to check the proper procedure first. We're supposed to be working within the Council framework now." Salmon's expression was hard. "I submitted an emergency intervention request to the Council 40 minutes ago. High Arbiter Thex said he would convene a vote within 72 hours. That's too long." "I know, but that's the system we agreed to join." Salmon paused, then added, "However, there's nothing in our agreement that prevents us from conducting routine patrol exercises in unclaimed space. And if we happen to be in the area when a distress call came through, responding would fall under our mandate to protect life." Jinwoo smiled slightly. Soman was giving him permission without explicitly violating the new protocols. "Understood, Admiral. We'll be conducting exercises in the Outer Rim. Very thorough exercises." "Good. Take a mixed fleet, Jinwoo. Show the galaxy that the Joint Defense Initiative can work together." The connection ended. Jinwoo turned to his crew. "Yuna, I want you to coordinate with the Velrin medical ships. Taiyang, assemble a mixed task force, 20 vessels, human and alien. I want diversity but combat capability." "Sir, should I inform the Council?" Taiyang asked. "Send them a notification that we're conducting training exercises." "Technically true." Jinwoo headed for the door. "We launch in 2 hours." The fleet that jumped to hyperspace was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Human cruisers flew in formation with Velrin hospital ships. Corvin supply vessels moved alongside sleek Praxi escorts. The integration wasn't perfect, communication sometimes lagged, and different species had different procedures, but they were learning. When they emerged at Theta Kedros, the situation was worse than the distress call had indicated. 5 raider ships orbited the Mirren colony, their weapons systematically destroying the settlement's infrastructure. On the planet below, fires burned across the mining complex. "Scan those raider vessels," Jinwoo ordered. "I want to know what we're dealing with." Hyun, now his chief tactical officer, studied the readings. "They're using modified merchant ships with military-grade weapons, probably stolen or bought on the black market. No match for our fleet individually, but together they could be dangerous." "Hail them," Jinwoo commanded. The raider leader who appeared on screen was a grizzled alien of a species Jinwoo didn't recognize. His ship's bridge was cluttered and dirty, the sign of a criminal operation rather than a professional military force. "This is Captain Jinwoo of the Joint Defense Initiative. You are attacking a civilian colony in violation of multiple galactic laws. Stand down immediately and prepare to be boarded. The raider laughed. The JDI? I heard about you. The humans and their pet aliens, pretending to be heroes. This colony isn't under council protection. We claimed it fair and square. You have no authority here. We have all the authority we need, Jinwoo replied calmly. The Mirren asked for help, and we're providing it. You have 60 seconds to power down your weapons. Or what? You'll destroy us? I don't think so. You're supposed to be the good guys, right? You won't fire on us if we have hostages. The raider gestured off-screen, and the image shifted to show a group of Mirren civilians huddled in a cargo hold. We took some insurance from the planet. You attack us, they die. Jinwoo kept his face neutral, but inside he was calculating rapidly. A direct assault would risk the hostages. But if they did nothing, the raiders would kill the colonists anyway once they had extracted everything of value. Yuna moved to his side and whispered, "The Velran ships have advanced medical transporters. If we can get a lock on the hostages, we can beam them out through the raiders' shields. It's risky, but possible." How risky? 70% success rate, but it's better than leaving them. Jinwoo made his decision. Do it. Hyun, prepare a precision strike on their weapon systems the moment the hostages are clear. The next 30 seconds were the longest of Jinwoo's life. He watched the Velran medical ship maneuver into position, its transporters charging. The raiders didn't notice the subtle energy signature, too focused on the human warships they considered the real threat. Transporters engaging, Yuna reported. We have them. All hostages are aboard the medical ship. Fire, Jinwoo ordered. The human fleet's response was surgical. Railgun rounds disabled the raider ship's weapons without destroying the vessels themselves. Within minutes, all 5 ships were dead in space, their crews alive but trapped. The raider leader's face reappeared, now furious and afraid. You'll pay for this. We have connections, powerful friends who won't let this— Save it, Jinwoo interrupted. You're under arrest for piracy, attempted murder, and kidnapping. Council security forces are on their way to take you into custody. He cut the transmission and turned to Yuna. How are the hostages? Shaken but unharmed. The medical team is checking them now. She smiled. We did it. No casualties on either side. On the planet below, Administrator Rena sent a transmission filled with gratitude and tears. The Mirren colony was saved, and the Joint Defense Initiative had proven it could respond quickly to emergencies without resorting to excessive force. But when they returned to Sanctuary 7, a priority message from the Council was waiting. High Arbiter Thex appeared on the screen, his expression severe. Admiral Jinwoo, your actions at Theta Kedros were not authorized. You were supposed to wait for the Council vote. We were conducting training exercises, Jinwoo replied carefully. When we received the distress call, we responded according to our mandate to protect life. Your training exercises conveniently took you exactly where you needed to be. This is the same pattern of behavior that got humanity quarantined in the first place. Jinwoo felt his patience wearing thin. With respect, High Arbiter, the Mirren are alive because we didn't wait for your vote. If following procedure means letting people die, then maybe the procedure needs to change again. The confrontation continued for several minutes before Thex finally relented. The mission was technically legal, even if the timing was suspicious. But the message was clear. The Council was watching humanity closely, waiting for them to make a mistake. After the transmission ended, Yuna found Jinwoo in his office, staring out at the stars. You look troubled. I'm wondering if we made a mistake joining the Council. We're still fighting the same battles, just with more paperwork. Yuna sat down across from him. 6 months ago, the Velran would have died because the Council voted to do nothing. Today, the Mirren lived because the Council has a force that can respond quickly. It's not perfect, but it's better. Jinwoo smiled. When did you become the optimistic one? When someone showed me that one person deciding to do the right thing can change everything. She stood to leave, then paused. We saved them, Admiral. That's what matters. 1 year after Velrus Prime, Admiral Jinwoo stood on the observation deck of Sanctuary 7 Station, watching a ceremony that would have been impossible just months ago. 23 new species were being inducted into the Joint Defense Initiative, each one committing ships and personnel to the Mutual Protection Force. The galaxy had changed. Word of humanity's intervention at Velrus Prime had spread like wildfire across 1,000 worlds. Then came the Mirren rescue, followed by successful operations on 6 other worlds. Each time, the Joint Defense Initiative responded when the Council moved too slowly. Each time, they saved lives without starting wars. The results spoke for themselves. 17 species that had been outside Council protection formally requested membership in the JDI. Criminal organizations that had operated freely in the Outer Rim were now fleeing from the combined human-alien patrols. And most importantly, distress calls that once went unanswered were now met with rapid response. But not everyone was happy about the changes. Admiral Jinwoo, you have an incoming transmission from High Arbiter Thex, Taeyong announced. He's requesting an immediate conference. Jinwoo sighed. Put him through in my office. When Thex's face appeared on the screen, he looked even more displeased than usual. Admiral, we need to discuss the situation in the Outer Rim. Your Joint Defense Initiative has become more powerful than many Council member fleets. Some species are beginning to question whether you're building an empire rather than a peacekeeping force. We respond to distress calls, Jinwoo replied calmly. We protect species that need protection. That's not empire building, that's exactly what we agreed to do. You're bypassing Council authority, Thex snapped. You've conducted 17 military operations in the past year, and only 5 were formally authorized by the Council. Because the other 12 would have required votes that would take weeks while people died. We send notifications before every operation. We submit detailed reports afterward. We follow the spirit of our agreement even when the letter of it fails the people we're trying to protect. Thex's forearms gestured in frustration. You can't simply decide for yourself what situations require intervention. That's chaos, not order. Is it? Jinwoo leaned forward. In the past year, how many species have been wiped out in Council space? 0. How many before we joined? At least 8 in the previous 5 years. If that's chaos, I'll take it over your order. The argument continued for several minutes before Thex finally terminated the connection in frustration. Jinwoo rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of responsibility. The JDI was successful, but its very success threatened the traditional power structures of the Council. Yuna entered his office without knocking, a habit she'd developed over months of working closely together. Trouble with Thex again? Always. He sees us as a threat to Council authority. Maybe we are, Yuna said thoughtfully. But authority that prevents good action isn't worth preserving. A priority alert interrupted their conversation. Minho's voice came through the comm system. Admiral, we're receiving multiple distress calls from the Corvin home system. They're under attack by a Krath battle fleet. Initial reports indicate at least 40 ships. Jinwoo and Yuna rushed to the command center. The tactical display showed the Corvin system in chaos. The Krath Empire, still bitter about their humiliation at Velrus Prime, had launched a massive retaliatory strike against one of humanity's closest allies. How long until we can respond? Jinwoo demanded. The bulk of our fleet is scattered across the rim on various operations, Hyun reported. We could assemble maybe 15 ships within 8 hours. That's not enough against 40 Krath vessels, Yuna said quietly. Jinwoo stared at the display, his mind racing. The Corvin were one of the first species to truly embrace the JDI. Their diplomat Hana had spoken in support of humanity when many others called them dangerous. They couldn't be abandoned. Send an emergency recall to all JDI vessels, Jinwoo ordered. Priority Alpha, and contact Admiral Soman. We need every ship humanity can spare. Sir, even with a full recall, we'll be outnumbered 2-1, Taeyong pointed out. I know, but we can't let the Krath think they can attack our allies without consequence. Jinwoo turned to Minho. Send a message to the Galactic Council. Inform them we're responding to the Corvin attack and requesting immediate support under the Mutual Defense Treaty. The response from the Council came within an hour. High Arbiter Thex appeared on screen, but this time his expression was different, almost apologetic. Admiral Jinwoo, the Council has convened an emergency session regarding the Krath attack on the Corvin. We're debating the appropriate response. High Arbiter, with respect, there's no time for debate. The Corvin need help now. I understand, but several species are reluctant to commit forces against the Krath Empire. It could escalate into a much larger conflict. Jinwoo felt his anger rising but kept his voice level. 1 year ago, you said the same thing about Velrus Prime. You chose stability over protecting the innocent. Are you going to make the same choice again? Thex hesitated. The situation is complicated. It's really not, Jinwoo interrupted. Either you believe in protecting council members, or you don't. Either your laws mean something, or they're just words you hide behind when doing the right thing is difficult. The transmission ended, and Jinwoo turned back to his crew. We're going regardless of what the council decides. How many ships can we field? 28 within 12 hours, Hyun reported. 35 if we wait another 6 hours. We don't have 18 hours. Launch with whatever we have at the 12-hour mark. Jinwoo moved to the communication station. Minho, open a channel to all JDI member species. Let them know we're responding to the Krath attack and could use their support. What happened next surprised everyone. Within 2 hours, 17 species had pledged ships to the defense of the Corvin homeworld. Not just the species already in the JDI, but others who had been inspired by humanity's example. Even some council members who had remained neutral now committed vessels. By the time the fleet assembled at Sanctuary 7, they had 63 ships from 20 different species. It was the largest combined force in galactic history outside of the Council's own military. Admiral Salmon arrived personally, commanding the Earth Defense Force carrier Incheon's Pride. When she met with Jinwoo before the departure, her expression was proud. "You've built something remarkable here," she said. "A year ago. Half the galaxy saw us as dangerous isolationists. Now they're following us into battle." "They're not following us," Jinwoo corrected. "They're fighting for the same principles we are. We just showed them it was possible." The combined fleet jumped to hyperspace, racing toward the Corvin system. When they emerged, the battle was already underway. The Krath fleet had destroyed the Corvin orbital defenses and were beginning bombardment of the surface cities. But the arrival of 63 ships changed everything. The Krath commander, recognizing he was now outnumbered and facing a coalition of species, demanded to speak with the human leadership. When Jinwoo's face appeared on his screen, the Krath looked furious. "This is a dispute between the Krath Empire and the Corvin. You have no right to interfere." "The Corvin are our allies," Jinwoo replied. "An attack on them is an attack on all of us. You have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. You think your ragtag collection of species scares us? We are the Krath Empire. We have crushed civilizations." "And now you're facing something you've never encountered before," Salmon interjected, her face appearing beside Jinwoo's. "A united front that won't back down. You can't intimidate us, you can't divide us, and you definitely can't defeat us. So make your choice. Leave now, or find out what happens when the galaxy actually works together." The standoff lasted for several tense minutes. Then, slowly, the Krath fleet began to withdraw. They had the numbers to fight, but not the will to face a coalition that clearly wouldn't break. As the Krath ships jumped to hyperspace, cheers erupted across the combined fleet. On the Corvin homeworld below, millions of people celebrated their salvation, but Jinwoo felt no joy, only relief and exhaustion. He knew this wouldn't be the last time they faced such a crisis. The galaxy was still full of threats, and the JDI was still new and fragile. 3 days later, the Galactic Council finally voted on the Corvin situation. By then, the crisis was over, resolved by the very force they had been reluctant to support. High Arbiter Thex stood before the assembly, and for the first time he looked genuinely humbled. "The events of the past week have made something clear," he said slowly. "The Joint Defense Initiative, led by humanity and its allies, has become the most effective peacekeeping force in the galaxy. Not because they have the most powerful military, though their strength is formidable, but because they have something we lost somewhere along the way: the will to act when action is needed." He paused, looking directly at the human delegation. "I propose we formally recognize the JDI as the primary intervention force for the Galactic Council. Give them the authority they've been wielding anyway, but with official sanction and support. It's time we stopped fighting against the change they represent and started working with it." The vote passed overwhelmingly. 6 months later, Admiral Jinwoo stood in the same observation deck where he'd watched the induction ceremony a year ago. But now he was watching something even more remarkable. A joint training exercise involving ships from over 60 species, all working together under JDI command. Yuna joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee, a human custom she'd grown fond of. Thinking about how far we've come? Thinking about how far we still have to go, Jinwoo replied. We've changed the galaxy's approach to intervention, but there are still threats out there. Still species that need protection. True, but now when they call for help, they know someone will answer. Yuna smiled. And not just humans anymore, all of us. Jinwoo's communicator chimed. It was Taeyang. Admiral, we're receiving a distress call from the frontier colonies. Pirate activity, possible slavery operation. How should we respond? Jinwoo exchanged a glance with Yuna, then smiled. Assemble a response team. Mixed fleet, standard protocols. Let's show them what the galaxy can do when we work together. As he headed to the command center, Jinwoo reflected on the journey that had brought them here. 1 year ago, humanity had been isolated, forbidden from participating in galactic affairs. One distress call had changed everything. They had answered when no one else would, and in doing so, they had reminded the galaxy of a simple truth. Power means nothing if you're not willing to use it to protect the innocent. The Joint Defense Initiative had grown beyond anything Jinwoo had imagined. It wasn't just a military force anymore. It was a symbol. A promise that no species would be abandoned, no cry for help ignored, no innocent life considered too insignificant to save. And across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, a new phrase had become common. When disaster struck and hope seemed lost, people didn't pray to distant gods or wait for bureaucrats to debate. They said something simpler, something that carried the weight of absolute certainty. Call the humans. Because everyone knew when the humans answered, they didn't come alone. They brought the combined strength of a galaxy that had finally remembered what it meant to stand together. They never meant to call humans specifically. But when the humans answered, they changed everything.